How do business owners and CEOs increase their profits, increase efficiency, and reduce the amount of time they spend within the business, all while growing their net worth for eventual sale and exit? Our mission is to answer this question and unlock the secrets to success in the world of business transition planning. Welcome to Elevate Your Business, a podcast where we discuss valuable but sophisticated and complex growth and exit strategies and make them easy to understand. Join us as we talk to successful entrepreneurs, share new and profitable ideas, and help you to grow wiser and wealthier so that you can experience limitless success in both life and business. Here's your host, consultant, and financial planner, Adam Koch.
All right, everybody. So today we have another episode of How I Built It with an ultra successful serial entrepreneur in Will Moss, a trailblazer who emerged as the top software engineering graduate from Hampton University, an esteemed HBCU in Hampton, Virginia. Will's journey began at spearheading software development at AT&T Bell Labs to founding HBCUconnect.com, a pioneering online social networking platform with now over, get this, 1.2 million members. I think it's pretty obvious this showcases his profound impact on bridging the gap between historical Black colleges and universities and the broader tech industry, which is obviously doing nothing but growing. And as a recognized subject matter expert in HBCU recruiting strategies and online community building, Will continues to innovate at the intersection of technology, education, and empowerment. So we're going to dive into a story of a guy who I don't know real well, but I'm going to get to know him here in a minute. But he's a visionary who's reshaping how we connect with each other and celebrating the talent from HBCUs. So thank you so much. This is 3 years in the making for joining me, Will. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Super excited to have some fun and have some conversations and share, which is something that I love to do.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think that I've watched some of your YouTube videos. I've seen a lot of the stuff you've done online. And I think that what's missing from a lot of the people who are fans of yours, for lack of a better word, is what is your story? You know, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, the successes, the failures, you know, how you got over it. So let's just start way back at the beginning. Where'd you grow up and what was childhood like for you?
Love this question. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I actually have a picture in front of me of my childhood. Like,
can we see it? Can you take it down?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So these are my brothers and my mom.
That's awesome.
And the reason I like this picture so much is when I was a kid, pretty much grew up poor in money, but rich in family. And the best time of the year and the best memories I have as a child were Christmas, because it was the one day when my parents tried, even though the money really wasn't there, they tried to make our dreams come true with the things that we wanted, you know, as a kid. And I was one of those kids that I wanted toys and stuff. Like I like toys and having little things that you might, if you go to the store and there's toys or little cars and stuff like, or GI Joes and stuff like that. I was the kid that I wanted all that stuff, but I grew up, you know, where it was most common that just couldn't get it. Maybe on the birthday, maybe on Christmas, but that was it. So, my memories, I have lots of great memories from my childhood with my family, and being raised in a way where like education was valued. My parents were really good role models. I don't have any horror stories of, you know, a drunken father or a abusive mom or anything like that. It's really stories of a family that had a lot of love, and just the money wasn't the focus. You know,
what did mom and dad do?
My mom was a teacher, but for the most part of my childhood, she was a substitute because she was spending time raising 4 kids. And my dad was a politician on the school board, and he had a couple of small businesses, but his focus never was making a whole lot of money, nor was my mom. Now, I do remember my mom having dreams of getting a new house, you know, when we were growing up, but that's about the only thing I can remember. Like, I never remember my mom or dad saying setting a goal on a new car or whatever, stuff like that. Which for me, it was like, my parents are smart. They're both educated. I saw my dad finish college when I was growing up. My mom had already finished it before we were born. So, I saw my parents were educated and everything, but I was like, why we have all these problems with money? Why is that? And I said, when I get older, that's not going to be my problem. If I have to work 3 jobs, that's just not going to be my problem. My problem, maybe it'll be other things, but it's not going to be that, because it feels like it's a dead end. Every time you want to do something or you want something, like the dead end is there's no money for it. So, but, I really had a great childhood. The only reoccurring theme that I would say was sort of a motivating factor was the money wasn't there. I remember I made the basketball team in high school, and the shoes for the basketball team were $65, which in the early 90s, late 80s, $65 was a lot of money.
Yep.
But I grew up in the inner city, kind of like in the hood, but somehow all the other kids, some of them might be on welfare and all of that, but somehow they got the money for the $65 shoes.
They got the pumps.
They got them. But when I came, I remember those shoes. Those Reebok pumps. I never had them.
I wanted them, so I couldn't get them. I couldn't afford them.
Yeah. So when I came home, I said, Dad, hey, I made the team. So that's the good news. But then the bad news is, but we're all getting these Nikes, some Air Nikes that just came out, and they're $65. Man, he went off. And he went off on me, but I know really what it was the pressure of not being able to provide financially for your kids in this situation was frustrating to him. He took it out on me, but I really understood what it was. It wasn't really have anything to do with me, but I remembered that, and I was just like, you know what? This is not going to be my problem. When I'm older, I'm going to make sure that I do whatever I have to do to make sure the money's not a problem.
That's pretty mature of you at that age to recognize that it was his frustration, and because every parent wants to give their kids everything they want to an extent, right? So it's pretty mature of you to think. I thought at first you were saying that I realize that now, but you actually felt like you realized it back then.
At the time I felt bad, but
yeah.
I felt bad, and I felt he didn't have to get upset with me. But sure. I knew what it was. I knew he just didn't have the money, and he probably wished he did, and he just probably felt stressed. So I didn't blame him or anything like that. I just thought, okay, this is not going to be my problem whenever I'm old enough to take advantage of it. So I have stories like that, and I can tell you 5 or 6 of them. But that was one theme. But on the flip side of it, where a lot of kids, maybe their parents worked and they had, extra money for stuff like that. Maybe their parents weren't as present, and they have different struggles from that. So I'm very appreciative of the way I was raised, and felt very lucky and fortunate. But yeah, that was a theme that kind of molded me, maybe a little different from my brothers and sisters, but molded me. Say, you know what, that's not going to be my problem one day.
Was there anything, and it could be another story like that, but was there anything that you experienced early in life that kind of initially ignited your entrepreneurial fire, that burning desire to succeed? I mean, it sounds like there was a wick burning back in those days. You hadn't quite hit the dynamite yet, but was there something that happened, or maybe it's a couple of things?
So there was a wick burning of, okay, I see these smart people around in my family, but somehow we're not monetizing. We're not making money off of the intelligence we have in the family. So that was the first wick. I have work ethic, and I have some little bit of intelligence, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to use it to make money. So I had that, but I didn't have the entrepreneurial thing until I went to college. I came out of college. I started working in corporate America, and I had a boss, and I always had this little entrepreneurial fire where it was like, kind of with my buddies and friends, we had tossed around ideas. We would get started, and then it would stop. You start, And you're like, damn, we're not that good at graphic design, for websites. So that one went in the wayside. And then we try another one. Oh, man, we're missing this and that. So, but I had a boss one time. This was after I graduated college and, starting the workforce. I had a really good boss at first, and he supported me and they helped me get promoted. And they saw me on the fast track, and they saw my career going really far, in the company AT&T Bell Labs. I was a software engineer, but they wanted me to go into management, and it was going good. Then some reorg happened, and I left the company and came back. And I had this new boss. The new boss didn't know my history, didn't know how they recruited me and anything. And we were having a conversation about my future. And so I saw myself as, you could go two routes getting promoted. You could go the management route, or you could go the technical distinguished member of technical staff route, which is really like distinct, like it's really special. But you get paid more in either route, you get promoted. And I didn't see myself going the management route. I saw myself being a technical expert. And when I had a meeting with my manager, and he told me, when I told him, hey, this is what my goals are, this is where I want to go with my career here. And he told me to my face, he said, I don't see it.
Oh,
and
wow.
And he said it clear and simple, which was different from my other bosses, which said, hey, you keep doing this, and then you'll get there and I'll support you, right? He said, I don't see it, as in there's a ceiling to my ascension, in the company. There's like a ceiling to how well I could do, how much money I can make, how much I could be broke. He saw a ceiling there because he didn't see my potential. That's what lit the entrepreneurial fire. That's when I was like,
so interesting.
That's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. Because not only am I going to do good in my job, I'm going to be in a race to get out of here. And so I'm going to continue to be the best in my job, so that when I leave, you're going to see it then. And then you're also going to see that I made whatever I was trying to get. I made a path. So that's exactly what happened. It kind of lit a real fire. Like that was like, wow, this guy has a ceiling. He doesn't see my potential. He's telling me, he's dead ending me. So now this is real. Like, I'm a grown up. I'm going to show him, because I believe in myself. That's what it was. And that's probably the best thing from my childhood, is my parents taught me to believe in myself. But I, and that's what I was, at that point in time, I was probably late 20s.
Oh, late 20s. Okay. Yeah.
I was probably late 20s. And I was a software engineer at the time. They had me doing some jobs that were not so glamorous, as a software engineer. And I would go and tell them, hey, I'll continue to do this stuff, but you guys can really use me to do more, because I can do a whole lot more than this. And he was just kind of like, hey, this is all we need you to do for now. And so I was like, okay. But that lit an entrepreneurial fire in me. And
that story's awesome. I mean, that's I've done, like I've told you before we started recording today, I've done several of these, and there's not usually, so far anyway, you're the first person that can put a finger on the moment it happened. And I mean, this imagery, I've never used the whole Wick and Dynamite analogy before, but I mean, I guess it was serendipitous. I mean, that was the dynamite. That was the moment that fire hit that thing, because I could only imagine how angry you must have been, but at the same time, like, disrespected, and then to say, you know what, I'm just like you said it, like, I'm going to show them, like, and that, I mean, that's gotta just, I've got this cup behind me, can't see it, but it's a Sinatra quote, and it says the best revenge is massive success.
Yeah.
And it's just not that you're going to do anything to him, but I mean,
and to be honest, I wasn't even angry or upset, or I didn't even feel
you're a better man than me.
I was just kind of dumbfounded, like, wow, he really doesn't see like my potential. And he's not really trying to foster it either. So I said, okay, you're going to see it though, because like I said, I did two things. One, I was like, I'm going to continue to be really good at my job. And so what happened, like, they started firing, they started downsizing. Mm-hmm. And he didn't know I was working on my other business endeavor at night and on the side and try to get my way up out of there while they were downsizing. So they kept the best people. So I was doing my job really good. So they kept me not knowing I was going to leave. And it actually came down to me saying, hey, when they got down and it was like 2 more people left, and I actually volunteered. I said, hey, why don't you, fire me instead of this other person, because I'm prepared for it and I already have a plan, and you can, but when they fire people, there's downside. They give you a package,
Right.
Severance package.
Yep.
So I think they're looking at me like he wants the severance package so he can go and get another job and this, that kind of thing. So they denied me the severance package. They let go of the other person, and then they're left with me. And then 2 weeks later, I resigned.
Wow.
Without the severance package. So it was like he got to see. He eventually got to see that.
Yeah. You're reliving it right now in your head. I can tell.
Yeah. But I mean, we're still fine. Like we actually go out to dinner every.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Now it's funny too, because I've always had this kind of playful thing, like with the YouTube and everything, like take my old boss to dinner in a Lamborghini or something like that.
Yeah.
But I never could bring myself to do it because, you know what I mean? Because it's real. It's not a for play thing.
Well,
like
you're bigger than that. I mean,
it would be a real and I never.
Some people would really take advantage of that opportunity, but I think that it doesn't pay to throw grenades on bridges.
No, I never. Because, like I said, I didn't feel that he had any malice when he was telling me he didn't see it. I just had to show him. So.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind for a second, because I appreciate you giving me that. I mean, that was an amazing story. But tell me about your first job. What was your first job?
I'll give you my nitty gritty. I had these phases. As a youngster, middle school age, in the summertime, parents tried to get us to do something productive. So they had this program, which was like you kind of had a job in the neighborhood, and your job was to clean up trash in the neighborhood, which in retrospect was a really great program, because you're taking care of your own neighborhood. You're cleaning up your neighborhood. You're learning to be responsible. We had to report in every day at 9:00, and we worked until 1:00. And we cleaned up trash, and we had little teams in the neighborhood. And then we were me and my friends were kind of industrious a little bit. So we had the idea we're going to be the bike patrol. So we get to ride our bikes around. But that was my first job, cleaning up trash. Second job, which is an extension of that program. As you got older, you got a little bit more serious jobs. I was a teacher's assistant with kids in a daycare.
Oh, wow.
And these are summer jobs. And then they pay you by taking you on a trip to Kings Island or to Cedar Point, or you graduated to a real paid job. So then I got into high school, and my first real paying job was Kroger's. I worked as a bagger, going to get the carts, cleaning up the floor with the mops, and I had a really good attitude, going to work. First of all, I was grateful that the lady that was the manager at the Kroger's, with one sit down, my dad took me there because he knew her, and he said, my son needs a job. And she on the spot was like, okay, fill out this application, and then when you want to start. So I was grateful for that.
Nice.
It was my first job experience. So I had a really good attitude, even though I had to do all the gritty, grimy cleanups and carts in the rain. And I had a really good attitude about it. And soon enough, they promoted me to cashier, which the thing there was I was still in high school. So they're they want to make sure that you're honest about stuff because you're dealing with cash and stuff like that. And, but I became a cashier and did that until I graduated.
Okay. From high school? Okay.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite job? Is there anyone that you like the most?
Of Kroger's or?
Yeah.
I used to like going to get the carts. Because the reason why and you wouldn't believe, I grew a lot all my jobs made me grow because I used to be super shy as a kid. Super,
Really?
yeah, like super,
So YouTube Will Motivation
super
is
shy.
a shy guy. Go figure.
The only thing that changed me was my jobs because I was like, making money was serious to me. Like, somebody pays you to do something and you agreed you're going to work there, you got to do it. So those things brought me out of my shyness. But I used to be so shy that when I had to bag groceries, they taught you to ask the customer, do they want paper or plastic bags? And I used to have to ask the customer, do you want paper or plastic? And for me, man, that was the hardest thing I had to do probably in life up until that point. But I learned how to talk to customers, right? I at least got past that level. But yeah, when I used to go get the carts, I'd be in my own world. I'd be in my head, psyching myself out, telling myself what my future was going to be like, as I go and get my cart, go get the carts and stuff. But yeah, I was very grateful to have the job.
So when you went to college, what made you decide to get into technology, into IT?
It's a really good question. And part of it was fate, but when I was in high school, those same years I'm working at Kroger's and stuff. Uh, Actually, before that, in middle school, my parents, like I said, I was rich in family, had really good parents. So somebody told them, get your kids a personal computer because computers are the future. So them listening to that person, whoever it was, my parents must have believed, thought highly of them. My parents invested the little bit of money that they had, and they bought a Commodore 64 computer.
I remember those.
You got to connect it to the television if you want to use it. And it didn't even have a hard drive. So if you wanted to use it, you had to write the program without, it didn't even have a floppy drive.
Didn't have a floppy either.
The only thing it could do was turn on and you'll give a DOS prompt or a basic prompt. And if you wanted to do anything, you had to learn computer code.
Wow.
Do anything. So I didn't know that. They bought the computer. We hooked it up a couple times and we're like, and this is the same time you had Atari. Right? Atari video games, right? So we're thinking, if this computer can't compete with the Atari with some games, we never plugged it up again. But they bought it, right? Later on down the road, one of my best friends, his parents got him a computer and he learned how to connect to bulletin board systems, which was like the precursor to the internet, and download games and use his computer to play games. I went to his house. He showed me that. And I was like, damn, we have a computer at the house. We actually also have a modem. Somehow, by the grace of God, somehow my parents got a freaking modem. Randomly. Nobody knew what it was for or anything. They got a freaking modem. And because they got that modem, I had this ability and idea that I can actually use the modem to plug into the bulletin board systems, which is our internet back then, and download games. But in order for me to do it, I had to write a computer program every single time I turned on the computer to connect to the modem, to connect to the bulletin board, and download a game and play it. And then you turn the computer off and it's gone.
I'm curious, how many lines is a script for something like that back then?
Maybe 300 lines, maybe.
300?
Maybe 150.
Oh my God. I was thinking 10, 15.
Oh, okay. No.
You can tell how much I know about IT or software for that matter.
But that's what got me hooked to computers. First time I connected to
That's crazy.
Another computer, I saw like words coming on the screen. I was like, oh my
And how
God.
old are you at this point? What year is this?
I was middle school age.
Middle school.
Middle school age. Then high school, my dad got on the school board and they gave him a computer that had disk drives in it. And with a disk drive, I could connect on the internet and download the games and save the games. And then I was rolling. Like,
you have a library now. Yeah.
I was like a little computer, like all of my free time other than going outside to play was on the computer. And so I thought to myself when I was graduating, maybe I can study computers or telecommunications. Random thought, just based on this experience of my parents having a computer in the house and me using it. I thought maybe I can do telecommunications or computer something. So on my college application, I put computer science And the only other closest thing was electrical engineering. And I put computer science or electrical engineering. So when I got accepted to school. My parents put me in a summer program for electrical engineering. But luckily for me, they defaulted me to computer science once freshman year started, and the rest is kind of history. I loved it, did very well in it.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's a good segue. So I think we know what prompted you to start the business. I think we got that real clear. Um, how to, I'm going to go a little bit different than I normally do because you own more than one business. You own several businesses. So let's just branch out here. Talk about each of the companies you own, what they do, and how long you've owned them.
Okay. So I'll do it chronologically. First, and my largest company is HBCU Connect. What it does is I coincidentally chose to go to a historically Black college and university, Hampton University. Didn't know what HBCUs were before I went there. I got there, and University 101 is learn about the history of the school. Learned about it, said, oh, this is cool. Got great opportunities for internships because of relationships the school had. Became passionate about it. Gave birth to the idea to do a social network before social networks for people that went to these HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a selfish thing. It was like, I want to stay in touch with my classmates. And there was no Facebook or anything like that. So that's the first business, and we can talk more about it if you like, but that's the biggest business. As that business started to do well, I saved up some money, about $300,000, my life savings after working for roughly 10 years, saved it up. And I started to study, okay, how do rich people become rich? And once they're rich, what do they do? And this reoccurring theme was real estate.
I knew you were going to say that.
If they don't invest in it, they at least have it. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking, okay, I'm going to copy what they do, which is my favorite saying, by the way. Figure out what it is you want and act accordingly. So
love that.
If you do something, if you have something that I want to have in my life, I got to figure out how you do it or how you got it, and then I got to act like I want it as well by doing the same thing. So anyway, that gave birth to me saving up some money, wanting to invest it. I started a real estate investment company, and I started buying real estate around 2010, and I bought and sold probably, I don't know, 100 properties at this point, something like that. So that was the second business.
Now, does that business still exist?
Yes.
Okay, and is it more rentals now, given the state of the market, as opposed to buying and selling?
I have about 23 rentals, and every year I may do 2 to 4 flips.
Okay, you can still profit right now.
Yeah. It takes longer to sell, but I actually made more money in the last couple of ones that I did.
Interesting. And the 23 rentals, are they all residential, or is it a combination of commercial and residential?
One commercial, which is the office I have, and I lease little parts of it, but just one commercial and the rest is residential.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Number
problem.
3.
No problem. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, so I learned how to develop software, and actually this actually came second. I digress, but I do different stuff with it. I started a company to do creative technology things. So, for example, when I created my first company, I basically created software for social networking. Okay. So I took that same software that I wrote and I productized it and set it aside to do other side projects that might make a little bit of money, either for someone else, because I ran into a partner that said, hey, you wrote that software for your site. Can you do that for us? I said, well, if it's synergistic enough and it makes some money, I'll do it. And so I had a couple of those kind of clients pop up, but then I might get creative. Like, so for example, I said, I'm going to do YouTube, and this is my interactive company. So I'm going to, any profit I make from YouTube and what I do creatively, it stays under that company. Okay. So it makes a little bit of money, here and there. But if I have an idea to do something creative through technology, I'll roll it under that company. So it's sort of a catch-all for some creative stuff that might make a little bit of money.
Got it. Okay. Is there a fourth? Is that right?
Well, technically, I started a nonprofit for what I do in the YouTube space, but basically saying, hey, I want to give back. And what I want to give back is through education. So anything I can share that I've learned in my 50 years of life that I can share mostly with young people, but anything that I can share and I can do it in an organized fashion, I put it under a nonprofit. So for example, I'll go and speak at high schools, or I'll go to, or I'll do some type of video that's a give back. Then I use the nonprofit to express myself and share education related to everything that I've learned, whether it's the entrepreneurial stuff, the real estate stuff, whatever it might be. I'll have different speaking engagements and places I'll go and things that I'll do to try to share knowledge.
That's awesome. And so as I go through these next questions, I guess we're going to do this a little differently than I normally do, because usually I'm just talking about one company. Feel free to answer for any or all of them, I guess, because the questions are going to be probably apply to maybe not all of them, but each one it might be a little different. But when you did start, this is going to be HBCU Connect, by the way, pretty obviously. But when you did you just cut bait, go all in? Did you still keep a day job in the evenings to, I know you were working at AT&T Bell, and then you were building it. But when you had to resign, were you ready? Were you ready, or did you feel ready?
In retrospect, financially, I don't know that it was the smartest thing to do. But at the same time, I don't regret it, and I would have done it again, because my train of thought was, I don't want to regret not doing it. I don't want to get older and older and older and make more excuses and be scared. No, I'm gonna grow on what I've already built. So to answer your question in short, I started the website in 1999. I was a software engineering consultant. I would go to Columbia Gas was one of my major clients. I was writing software for them to do claims processing and stuff. I had a crossroads. My crossroads was, do I go work for Microsoft, which is the dream job for a software engineer?
I'm sure.
And I luckily I got an offer from Microsoft, or go back to where I kind of got my chops and came out of college, go back to AT&T Bell Labs. And the pay was the same, but it was a crossroads because if I went Microsoft, I'm all in there because it's Microsoft. I want to represent myself well. I want to be a top performer, so I could forget about my side business. If I went to Microsoft.
Okay.
So I had a decision to make, but tough decision. So I said, you know what? I've started this website. I'm passionate about it. This is what I really want to do. I can build it at night. I don't have homework and stuff from the job. So I'm going to go back to AT&T and I'm going to build it until I can eventually run it full time. But in the meantime, I have a day job. So that took from 99 to 2004.
Okay.
So building on the site. Now, what happened that made it a little less risky is the last 2 years, 2002 and 2003, I started making a little bit of money.
Okay.
Not a lot, like 5,000 this year and 12,000 the next year.
Where'd the revenue come from with that? Because it's, I think social media is still a mystery to people, even though everybody uses it.
So savvy recruiters. This was the beginning of all of the explosion of functionality on the internet. So Monster.com came out, CareerBuilder.com came out, online recruitment became a thing. So these savvy recruiters looked online for talent. And so there's a handful where it would be one or two every week that will call me and say, hey, we're trying to get relationships with these schools, but we see that you have a database online and they don't.
You created a bucket full of people to choose from, essentially.
And at that time, there was nothing like it. There was no Facebook, no LinkedIn. So they said, hey, can you give us the access to post our jobs on your site? Basically, they wanted to advertise.
Wow. Okay.
So I looked at Monster and Career Builder, and I looked at their revenue model, and I said, I can do that. So I created a career center as a part
No
of my
way.
network.
Nice.
And that's what monetized the site. So it was like 5,000 the first year. The next year was like 12,000 or something. And then 2004 came along, and that's when the downsizing was happening and the conversation with my boss and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get out of here. So when I quit, I was slowly making a little more money, but it wasn't. At the time, I probably was making $90,000 a year, which was really good for me in that time period. I was married, 2 kids, little kids. So that was the risk. It was like,
I was going to ask you about that actually.
that was the risk. But I didn't want to be older and look back and say, what if I had tried my dream?
Wish I would have. Yeah.
I didn't want that. And then I asked myself, are you scared? Like, yeah, we know you're scared, but are you really scared? Are you a scaredy cat?
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to myself like, no, I'm not scared. I'm brave. I'm the type of person that will fight to the end and work my ass off to get things done. So why don't I believe in myself to quit? And then I had a conversation with my dad, who was still alive at the time. And he finally got to the point where he was like, well, if you're going to do it, let's just do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
one of those kind of things. And that's all I really needed.
You stood up and walked out of there. Yeah.
I didn't need him to give me anything, any money. I didn't need him to tell me I could come live with him if it all failed. I didn't need him to help me. I just needed to hear him say that, just to say it, and okay, so you know what I'm going to do now. I know you're proud of me because I'm the only kid that finished college. I'm doing well. I got a house and kids and everything. But you said you gave me that green light.
Dan Sullivan, he said that you need 2 things to do what you did. One's confidence and the other's courage. And then when somebody asked him, well, aren't they the same thing? And he goes, no, one feels comfortable. Courage isn't so comfortable, right? And it's like, I love quotes. I collect quotes, and you already wrote one down from you today. But 2 of my favorite entrepreneurial quotes is the CEO of LinkedIn, who said that starting a business is like jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down.
Yes, I've heard that one.
Yeah. And then the other one is, I don't know who said this. I think it's an anonymous quote, but it said, leap and the net will appear. Now the net doesn't always appear. So
you keep reaching for it. Eventually you might catch on to something, right?
Talk about how easy or difficult it was to get that first year or 2 going when you were solo, like on your own, bare bones.
Okay, so funny thing happened with my startup story. So I didn't have any investments or anything from outside or anything like that. Really didn't have some small $5,000, $7,000 type loans maybe that I really didn't even tap into. But what I did have was my excitement and conviction, I think, was a little contagious. Okay. So the people that were around me were like my family and my friends. And when they saw me take the risk and kind of jump out to say, I'm going to do it, they all like gravity, like the earth has gravity. That's what happened with this vision for this. And they all had little parts to do with it. Like 2 of my brothers and sisters also went to HBCUs coincidentally. And so they could understand, and they were just pushing me and getting behind me. So when I quit, I got a little office space for $500 a month on Main Street over here. And they came to work with me. My brother, my sister.
No way.
Yeah, like right out the gate. And 2 of my colleagues that I work with came to work with me. And I hired a couple people. And I told them, I said, look, I don't know how much money we're going to make. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll all eat off of the same plate. We'll all participate in what's necessary to bring money in and to execute on whatever we promise to sell to people, but we'll all share and we'll all grow together. And they all just kind of were like, let's do it,
Yeah.
So I had a team right as soon as I quit. I had 4 or 5 people, and somehow I managed to pay them every single week to this day.
I was going to ask you, who's working with you still today?
The original group. So my brother, who was working with me, started an offshoot nonprofit for scholarships and to support students at HBCUs.
Okay.
So it's still relevant, but it's its own thing now. My sister still works with me to this day.
That's cool.
My buddy that came from that used to work with me at AT&T Bell Labs, he still works with me to this day.
No way.
The other buddy that came, he doesn't work with me to this day because he went and did a whole different career path. But I've got some folks that have been working with me for years and years.
Yeah.
But how hard or difficult, or how hard or easy was it once we got out? I didn't look, even to the point where we made like our first $1 million year, right? I didn't even know we made $1 million, like, because you're not going to keep, that's gross. You're not your net, right? So you have this gross and you're just looking at, okay, the bank account has $60,000 in it, or it has 25,000, or okay, that's enough for me to pay everybody for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, right? So I never looked at, we just were grinding. So we were just gritty, and we did all the hard work. Like, we focused on work and not as much on money. Now we focused on what did make money, but I didn't even have time to look up and say it's hard or easy, or we're getting rich, or we're getting broke. We're just getting, like, we're just
focused.
We're just focused. Let's make opportunities. We got to go find opportunities. Let's answer the phone when it rings. Let's put ourselves out there in the path of the people that need our services, and let's get it and stay alive. Because I didn't have any investors. And okay, that was 2004. By 2006, I bought an office space.
Okay. Same one you have now?
Same one I'm in now.
Same one?
About 2,500 square feet or somewhere around that.
Yeah. Where's it at?
Gahanna, Cross Point.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How many hours were you putting in each week in the beginning?
Oh, that's a good question. I was awake, man. Here's what it was. Literally, literally, like, my schedule would be wake up. I didn't wake up I wasn't one of those early bird gets the worm type guys. I'm the late night rat gets the cheese.
The late night. That's a new one.
Getting the cheese, right? He's scrummaging and everything. That was me. So I wasn't like one of those 6 o'clock in the morning guys. I was more like, get up at 9 o'clock. I get to the office by 9:45, 10 o'clock. And I work until maybe 7 or 8. Come home, take care of the kids, dinner with the kids, watch some cartoons or something, play with them, and then they're in bed by 9:30 or so, or 10 o'clock or whatever it is. And then I got on the computer from home. And then it was usually until I went to bed, which might be around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
That was every single day. Saturday would be family time. So prioritize what the kids want to do. And then Saturday night, I want to watch a little bit of boxing or whatever it is on TV. And then Saturday night after that, I'm working again. I'm working until 3 o'clock in the morning. Sunday, relax a little bit with the family, eat with the family, and then I'm working the rest of the day.
How long before you felt like you were profitable enough to relax a little?
That was 2004 until about 2010.
Okay. About 6 years?
About 6 years. I had gone through a divorce right then.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was inevitable no matter what happened with my business or whatever.
Well, what's funny is I don't mean to cut you off, but I was actually going to ask next. Like, I'll ask again in a more elaborate way, but I was going to ask about how hard that was on the relationship.
It was hard, but I won't say that it led to the divorce was inevitable.
Okay. All right.
We're too different. But it did have a toll, because one of the things that made her unhappy was I'm working all the time and I can't give her the same attention that I would give when I was like, I met my ex-wife before I even had my business, I just graduated from college. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even know what my life was going to look like. But once I had kids, it was like, I remember my childhood having to say no to everything because we didn't have money. I didn't want that for my kids. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to stay true to my plan, as that's not going to be a problem. But yeah, I finally got to relax after the divorce. I got back into a house. I started building that other business heavy, the real estate business.
Yep.
But I started to take Saturdays off.
Okay.
Started to take Saturdays off to where I'm not really going to work on Saturday unless I'm doing something for fun, like the YouTube thing started happening.
Yeah.
After that.
When did you start the YouTube?
Probably not until 2016.
16.
Like
Okay. But meanwhile, you're accumulating real estate, flipping real estate. Okay. It's a lot to do during the week. Run a business successfully and then buy and sell real estate.
You know what happened is maybe my main business could have been a lot bigger.
Okay.
I had a different skill set, or maybe I was in Silicon Valley or whatever. Maybe it could have been a lot bigger. It has the potential to be a lot bigger. So what happened with that main business? We had really busy times and we had not so busy times.
Okay.
So it just so happened that in the not so busy time, I started to build a real estate portfolio, because in the busy time, I saved as much money as I could.
Okay.
But then I got to the not so busy time, and then I started building the other company up. And then by the time COVID hit, the main business got busier than it ever had got floated. So I kind of like go with the ebbs and flows of what's going on and demand for what I was doing.
I think this is a question I think I've always had for people who've built real estate portfolios in life and had successful businesses. Did you have fun with your money at all in the beginning? Or to what extent did you have fun with your money before you cut it off and said, all right, I can't have too much fun here because I really want this real estate portfolio. And obviously it takes money for down payments, and you buy one, it appreciates, you can borrow from one to buy another. I mean, there's anybody who knows real estate know that there's lots of ways to use leverage to your advantage, but did you cut yourself off at a certain point, or did you kind of live poor with your profits so you could have the real estate? How'd that work?
I love the question because I have some friends now that one guy I'm thinking of in particular that is like, he's so on the extreme of like not have fun with your money type of thing.
Government cheese?
Yeah, but he makes really good money. He makes really good money. So in my case, yeah. So, but for me, no, I only really had one vice, and that was cars. I always had this thing where I just like cars. But what I did with my car passion and hobby is I only got cars in the range that I felt were affordable and that made sense. So for example, when I was working at AT&T Bell Labs as a software engineer, I'm making $90,000 a year. I got a house payment, and that's really my only major expense, and my kids and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, it's like the Mustangs and the RX-7s and the
Rotary. Did you get the Rotary?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it blow up at 77,000 miles? It blow up on you?
Oh man, that was the lemon of the lemon. I only had one lemon. That was it. RX-7 was the worst car I've ever had. But my price range for the car hobby, while I may have had three cars, one was $7,000, one was $15,000, and one was $24,000.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started making more money, the car just got a little bit better. Like, that was the big thing for me when I cried when I got a car was I got a Corvette new. And this was only like,
what year was this? What year was the Corvette?
Only like 2016.
16?
It was like 2017 or something like that. 2016.
Was that the C7?
Yeah, I got a C7.
That was the best. Still to this day, the best model, by the way, my opinion.
I was so happy because my dad had died a couple years before, and I kind of was like, man, I wish you could see this. I got a new Corvette, and everything up until that point in time was either a lot cheaper or used or something like that. It was one of the first new cars I ever got. So that was my only thing that I like to spend money on that was kind of out of the norm. Mm-hmm. But I always kept it in check as far as not going overboard with the cost of the cars I had.
So you essentially, Woody Hayes, pay yourself first, kind of, or I guess that's pay it forward, isn't it? But pay yourself first, make sure you had the money to do the real estate to, call it a budget, so to speak, so you didn't get it out of hand.
the way I did it was I tried to save. I tried to live on minimum things that we had to have, right? You got to have a house and you got to have transportation. So, and I didn't get too far with the house and I didn't get too far with the transportation. Like as far as my house was $160,000 and I stayed there until I got a condo when I was going through the divorce, right? So I always kept stuff, but I saved everything else except for what I had to pay for my staff and necessary things, right? But I didn't have any other thing that was a money pit. Like some people like to travel, some people like expensive restaurants or stuff that disappears. I didn't have anything like that. So I was able to save pretty decently. And I've always, even to this day, while I do have some much more expensive cars, I didn't get that until I had the real estate. I didn't have, like, I got my first Lamborghini Gallardo, which was about $107,000, most expensive car I had ever owned. But by that time, I had already probably 15 properties.
Okay. Some people in real estate, what they'll do is they'll buy real estate up until the real estate income can pay for the car payment.
Yeah,
Is that what you did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you name the cars? Do you name the houses after the car?
I would do videos like that. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
kidding.
Actually, I've done that.
I was
Yeah,
kidding, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say Project Huracan. Project
Project Huracan.
Yeah, Project versus GT3. Yeah, I would definitely do that.
Nice. All right, let me change gears here for a second. I kind of teased you a little bit earlier with this question, but this is a big one for me personally, especially when I was starting my business. My dad, sounds like you're the same. My dad is my idol. You know, he's 71 years old now, and he's getting older. And you know, I'm terrified of the day that I lose him someday. It's like I don't know. That's not going to be good. Let's just put it that way. But I always looked up to him, and I always wanted to be just like him. And one of the things I noticed when I was growing up is he was an optometrist. He has his own practice, and it was very hard to build that practice up. You know, he was, member of the Lions Club, member of the Exchange Club, member of the Rotary Club. He was president of the school board. Like he was just getting out there, So it was really difficult for him to be around for our sporting events and things like that. And so when I started my business, I was hell bent on working my butt off until we had kids so I could be there for them when they were older and, help coach sports. And I'll be honest with you, I'm saying, I can't believe I'm admitting this right now. Here I'm looking at my watch like it's going to tell me my age. I'm 45 years old. I'll be 46 this year. My boys are about to be 14 and 11. And I'm still crazy busy. And I feel, and this is the question for you, because this is one of the things I struggle with. Tell me about your personal struggles with taking care of your customers. And that's probably both members of the community as well as advertisers and beyond. This could expand for you into tenants, while trying to be a good boss to your employees, be a good husband to your wife, while trying to be a good dad. I just counted 5 ways that we're being pulled in all directions. And for me, I'm just going to lay it out there. For me, I feel like I really struggle to be really good at any of them. It's like a constant daily struggle for me, Tell me how you've dealt with that.
I think I kind of look at the extremes from early on to say, all right, what is the one thing that if that one thing goes bad, everything else goes bad. So that was the thing that I focused on, which was if we're homeless and I don't have a means of taking care of us, then everything else is going to be bad. I'm probably not going to be a good parent because I'm going to be stressed out. I'm probably not going to be a good husband because I'm worried about money and the expense, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, I got to get that foundation. But I was already wired like that from my experience as a kid. I was already wired that I got to make sure the money is there for everything that I need and whoever's behind me, whatever they need, my wife, my kids, whatever. So that's what I prioritized, that followed by, okay, now where does everybody else need me to be good and what's the priority on that? So I got to be a good dad to my kids. So what does that mean? And what kind of time does that require? Right? Because you got to balance that with that first thing.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like, I was doing a really good job at that by being there. but there's some things you can't control. Like, there's some things you can't control, and there's some things that if you didn't deal with it as a kid, you wouldn't know to deal with it when you have kids. And these are things that I've learned in retrospect. But at the time that I was going through raising my kids and going through everything that we went through, I didn't know some of the things, and I wish that I did. And I always could say, hey, I could do better. But all we have really is the present and the future. The past is done.
Can't do anything about it.
You can do something about the present, and what you do in the present to set yourself up in the future.
Yeah.
That's all you can really do. So that kind of like tapers, I think, everything. Now, as far as the customers and the tenants, one thing I did learn and I always knew is that I had to have a team because I couldn't do everything. Even though I don't consider myself to be a good manager, I'm not a manager delegate
Me
type
too.
of person. I'm more of a, okay, we got to do what? Get out the way, I'll do it. I'm more like that guy, because I'm going to get it done and they're going to be happy when I'm done with it. And we'll worry about everything else later, which is not really a good manager. That's maybe a good leader, but maybe not a good manager. So knowing that, but you still know you have to have a team. And you have to learn to be better at getting the right people on your team to handle the right things. So my tenants, I have a person that's been on my staff and my team for maybe 7, 8, 9 years now. And she handles everything with the real estate except for when she's contacting me to say, hey, I got a quote for this and it seems kind of high. What do you think? And I'll go get some more quotes, Or the tenants call and they're like, this happened. And she's just like, hey, this happened, so it's going to cost some money and blah, blah. But she can handle it, right?
Yeah.
So I got people in place to handle those things that could be pesky, and could be hard, to deal with.
What about social media? You do a really, really good job with social media, even though I can tell it's a creative outlet for you. Do you have people helping you with that too?
Now I do. I have, but with that, I try to make it fun because if it's not fun, like I got enough stuff to do that actually makes money. You know what I mean? to where I have to make it fun, or else I might not even do it. Because like for example, TikTok and some of the other platforms that are out, I don't even like. I want to be there, but it's not fun to me because the demographic I think is a little different and stuff. So I don't get into it. Like I don't watch TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not really on there, but I had like at one point in time, I had a person who was repurposing my video stuff for TikTok. I have a person that repurposes my content for Instagram because even on Instagram, I'm barely like barely an Instagram user. Even on Facebook, even though I'm in social networking, I'm barely a Facebook user because I'm more of a like, I'm the guy doing the work. You want to turn the camera on, turn it on. But I've learned that it can be fun. So that's where I get into it. So like the YouTube stuff, I'm doing that because it's a hobby for me. It justifies some of the stuff that I do. Like if I want to take a road trip and I want to buy a Lamborghini, well, how can I justify buying this Lamborghini? I can share it. And maybe the younger version of me can see this and realize that it's possible for him too, because all he has to do is go study something that's going to make him some good money and make some good decisions, and then for me, then I can say, all right, now I can make sense of this and this will be fun because 2 years from now, somebody will tell me that they saw a video and it inspired them because they believed that they could do it too. Right.
That's cool.
It's fun, so that I can do it. I can
Yeah. I mean, you've got 37,500 subscribers. I'm sorry, 87,500 subscribers on Instagram, and then 317,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I think you're doing all right there in the social media compartment. And congrats on that success. That's not easy. Especially when you were born in the 70s, which I think we both might have been born in the 70s. So
73.
Gen Xers like us, it's not the same. But so You mentioned, all we have is the president. That made me think of another quote. It's actually a Chinese proverb. It says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. Just another good quote. But as you look back over the years, what would you say have been the best parts of growing these businesses? The most fun parts, the best parts?
The best part is realizing, like, because sometimes I'm one of those people, like I kind of described when I started the business, we were all just grinding and not really looking up at what we're just trying to survive,
Yeah.
Well, the best part is when you do look up, because maybe somebody makes you look up and they say, I got a job with Microsoft, and they start, like, I had an interview with a young lady who, she was a single mom who had a son. She's probably in her 30s, early 30s, I'm guessing. And we invited her to a hiring event we're doing with Microsoft. And she got a job, the dream job with Microsoft, and a salary increase and a future. And I interviewed her about it. And for me, it was kind of like business as usual. I'm like, I want to get an interview so that we can get other people to see that this is real, and we want other people to have the same good success that you've had. And I'm just going about it as business. But then when I start talking to her and she's telling me the story of her story leading up to coming to the event and what happened after the event and how it's going to change her life. And she started crying. And then I'm like, yeah, this is real. This is like life-changing stuff, like what people are going to do when they find their dream career. And now they have hope when maybe where they were dealing with all kind of stuff, So that's the best part, is not only what we do and how it affects people's lives positively in the work that we do, but then also when I say the we, that I have this team of people around me that were doing all different types of random things, but then they came to work with me. And now they've been with me for years, and I've seen their lives get like stability. And like my brother has the offshoot of something that came out of this, and my sister was allowed, to be there for my mom. Like my mom had a stroke, and because she worked with me, we were able to make it work out, and she could be with my mom. And my graphic designer, her dad died during COVID, but I was able to provide an opportunity for her that she never had that kind of a stable job before. And now she does, and she's found something that she's good at. So those are those things that really, for me, is like, okay, this is not just good for me. A lot of people are because of this thing, this entity of business, a lot of people are benefiting from it. And I love that I've been a part of it.
I think that's probably one of the most special things about owning a business is the lives you get to affect, and what you get to, you take something that didn't exist. Because people, I think there's a misconception that there's a pie out there, and that when you make money or you generate revenue, you're taking your piece of the pie from someone else, but really you're just creating more pie. And
yes.
You create that pie, and then now you're giving that pie to other people to help you. And now, I mean, it's really kind of cool. I mean, and what would you say have been the toughest times? So toughest times, what happened? Maybe just one quick story.
I think I internalized a lot of the stress of the risk that I was under running a business, that people depend on me, like my team that I have to pay every month, my kids and my family depending on me. And I internalized, and then I get stressed, like when things might not be going good with the client, and I have to make sure it goes well, and then I got to make sure the bills get paid and all of these different things. I think I internalized a lot of the stress, and I don't show it. Like I wouldn't show it, but then it would come out in other ways where if you could go back in time and say, you know what, I wish I could change that. For example, I wish I was a little more patient with my kids. I was kind of like Iron Fist,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for this we don't have any time for this kiddie dumb stuff. Like everything, you guys, the drill. Like, and in retrospect, my son is special needs. My son is autistic, and like if I wasn't so stressed with my business, I think I wouldn't have been as impatient. And if I could go back, that's the hardest. That's really the hard, because everything else is like not even personal.
How old are the kids?
They're old now. My kid, my son is 21. My daughter's 22.
Okay. Yep.
Well, he'll be 21 in June. So that's the hardest thing is you, like, for me, because I'm not like a mean person. I don't go around yelling at people and stuff like that. But I do sometimes get under a lot of stress with the business.
Yeah.
And it can come out in impatience.
Yeah, I get that.
Now, if I could reverse, I would love to erase all of that impatience, and be a softer, sweeter type of person, especially like with my kids. I think that probably would have been. That's the only thing I could say. But everything else is almost not even personal to me. Like the hard times, like like business goes up and down. Sometimes the bank account is almost on E, and sometimes it's full. But what do? You work. You know what I mean? Like, you work, you grind, and you work.
There's that workaholic. Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, that's a no-brainer, and it's not personal. Yeah. It's not my client's fault that it's low. It's not anybody's fault. We just got to work to make it better when it's like that. So that's never like been personal or where I've been like, like down and out or something like that. And I always like when COVID came, I was at that point where it's like, I wonder, is this going to be that rainy day, that we always talk about, that we have to be prepared for. And so I was prepared. I was saving all the money up, and it was like, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came, there was like 1 week where everything got quiet, and I was like, you know what? Maybe this is the time I've been waiting for things to calm down, and I can rebuild stuff and do new websites. And but after that week, business exploded.
Game over.
So no, I don't have any stories so much, because to me it was never personal or anybody's fault if things were up and down. But if anything, it would just be the stress that I took on. If I didn't have it or knew how to deal with it better, I would have been more patient.
I appreciate that answer, because usually the answer to this question has a whole lot more to do with like a period in time where the economy was struggling, or a period like COVID's been big, obviously, that we hear that all the time. Like, oh my God, COVID, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to pay the bills, or I didn't pay my bills. I had to call the mortgage company and come up with, a way to make things work, especially in retail, restaurant. I mean, so I appreciate those. Say again?
And I've had moments where money is low, but for me, that's part of the game. Like it's being business.
But I appreciate you being really vulnerable and answering with a personal, such a personal answer. Cause I mean, that's honest, For
me, that's the real hard part of it all.
Yeah. Well, this one's a tough one to unpack, but when you look at where you're at today, to what would you say you attribute the success you've achieved thus far?
I would attribute it to having an environment that I grew up in with my parents that made me believe in myself. And but at the same time, I wasn't given a whole lot. I wasn't given the material things. I was given the necessities. I had food, I had shelter, and I had some raggedy clothes, but I had clothes. But I had a drive because of that. And because I had love and the watering of the seed to believe in myself and take their advice to try to get an education and stuff like that. I had that. So that was the foundation to everything. So now if I have a challenge, I believe I'm equipped to deal with it. Whatever it might be. If I had to do a total new career change, I believe I could handle it, So I have that basis, and I would attribute my success to that basis, which also includes that drive of not having everything, not having nearly everything, having more no's than yeses. So it was in my hands. If you want the yeses, you got to make the yes, because it's not always going to be a yes when somebody else is giving it to you.
Do you feel like you've gotten your businesses to a point where you're truly acting as president and CEO and not dealing with so much of the day to day?
You're asking a lot of good questions.
That's all I got, Will. That's all I got is good questions.
I'm sure you have more than that. But honestly, no. But and have I gotten? But compared,
I really thought you were going to tell me, oh yeah, I'm there, man.
no, no. But if I compare to 2004, 2006,
Yeah.
to now, in a lot better manageable shape than I was then.
What do you think the difference is? What do you think the key is to getting from where you were to where you are?
Trusting team members, giving them what they need to become experts in their area, trusting them, understanding that it's not going to be perfect and it might not be as good as how you would do it, but you have to have help. You have to have people that help you, and you have to trust them. That's a non-negotiable because you can't do everything. So understanding
Sure.
that and accepting it, that's the difference. And investing, you got to invest in it as well. You got to invest in it as well because that's not easy at the beginning either.
Yeah.
Like gambling. It's like, well, I know if I did this, and I kept the money, I know the quality level would be at. But if I pay someone else to do it, I don't know if the quality level is going to be there.
Yeah.
It's like a gamble or risk, but you got to take it if you want to grow.
How many hours you putting in today?
I would say across all of the stuff that I do, I would say probably in a week maybe 50 to 60 hours.
Okay. Yep. Would you say, and this isn't on my list, would you say that you like being an entrepreneur, that it's not really work?
I like being an entrepreneur, but it's work.
Is it work?
It's
Yeah.
work for me because unless you have that utopia team where you got everybody doing the stuff you don't want to do as a part of that business, then you
Okay.
got that part that you don't want to do. Like my accountant sends me an email every few days that says, "What are these expenses?" I'm like,
Oh
I
man.
don't really want to do that. Like I really don't want to do it, but I got to do it. But at the same time, I used to have this reoccurring nightmare that I had to go back to a job.
Oh,
Yeah, I used to have this reoccurring nightmare like that. I got to go to work, and
yep.
so it's different. It's different from going to work for your own company and being an entrepreneur than going to work for somebody else's. So I wouldn't trade it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
wouldn't.
freedom. Yeah, is the biggest thing. And I'm still, it also is too busier than I'd like to be. I do say that I haven't worked in 22 years, but because I do love what I do, but I wouldn't, I'd love it just as much if I were doing less of it, you know? And I'm still learning some of that delegation and trust actually as we speak right now. Looking back, do you feel like you met or exceeded the level of success you initially hoped for when you first started in the very beginning, leaving Bell Labs?
Definitely exceeded. The kind of person I am, I'm a get in and do the work kind of person, like get in and get it done and then look at everything later type of person. So even when I was starting a company or dreaming about it, I dreamed of the things, but I didn't have a path. Like I didn't really have but little by little as I got into doing the work and that path, like building the airplane as you jump off the cliff,
Yeah.
that really is like had proven to be true. So, but exceeded because if you asked me back then how I was going to do what I've done, I might have dreamed of it, but didn't know the how.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known. So it's definitely exceeded.
It's like I'm
Definitely.
just doing. Yeah. You much of a reader? Do you read at all?
Audio, audio.
I listen to books. Are you a book listener or more podcast?
I'll do both.
Do you?
I haven't gotten plugged into the podcast like on all the podcast specific networks, but if it's on like YouTube,
Okay. Yeah. I'm not, I'm still trying to be regular with podcasts. I'd much rather read a book, or listen to a book. What do you, give me either your favorite, or if you can't give me your favorite, give me your top two or three favorite ever books you've read.
number one is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Um, Number two, uh, an autobiography on Bill Gates.
Okay.
It was a long time ago that I read it. Um, but I'll tell you that Millionaire Real Estate Investor book, I listened to it on audio, but I listened to it probably 12, 15 times
Hmm.
over. And it felt like it was the uncle, that I didn't have. And I had some good uncles too. So I'm not saying I
I want
didn't.
you to throw shade at your uncles now. Yeah.
I had some good uncles but the book was like your rich uncle. And he's telling you, all right, now this is how the rich people do it. They invest in real estate. This is why you shouldn't be scared. And this is how you're not going to be scared, because you're going to be prepared. And that book was the best, absolutely hands down, the best book that I've ever read or listened to in my life. But no, I'm not much of a book. If I read a book, my mind will start wandering. If I'm like looking at
yeah, same here. I'll usually go over 2 pages and then I'll realize I didn't read any of the pages, any of the words.
That's me.
Yeah.
But if I listen, I get it all.
I know. I don't get it. I was driving down to Cincinnati and back last Friday, and I listened to a book the way down. And I have it. My phone's up on the dash, and I've got an email to myself open. And when I hear something I like, I'll switch over from the book to the email, and I'll voice to text my notes, go back to the book, and it's just back and forth, back and forth.
I'm an audio learner.
What about those that are looking to start a business? What advice would you have if they were to ask you for the single biggest contributor to what helped you succeed, going back to the beginning and through to where you're at today?
Starting a business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the number one thing, and this is, I've told this to other people that have made millions of dollars after I told them this. When you start a business, you have an idea, listen to everyone that interacts or engages with your business, even if you think that person is not a customer. Because if they interact or engage with your business, whatever they're complaining about or asking you for could be the solution or the product or service that you need to provide. So for me, in my business, I started my website with no financial. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I wasn't making any. It was a passion project for fun. Started growing, but then I had these people that start tapping me on the shoulder saying, "Hey, can we do this with your website? Can we do that with your website?" So if I hadn't been listening and trying to answer the call and think about it from a business perspective, I could have missed the whole entire boat. But I listened and I said, you know what? This is a business opportunity. These are going to be my customers. They're asking for a way to interact with my business, and I'm going to charge them. And millions of dollars later, you know what I mean? So that would be my advice, is to listen. And also don't be afraid to do what you might not have wanted to do initially, or what you dreamed of. Like, really and truly, I'm a sit in the basement and write code type of guy. Like, I don't really like to do meetings. I don't like getting on talking to folks and stuff, but I do it and I'm good at it because I know it's necessary. So don't be afraid when you have your business to do the parts that you might not like to do, but hopefully eventually you can find people that are better than you at it, and then you get them on your team. Those would be my 2 big nuggets. And just, of course, there's no substitute for hard work and focus.
I always talk about the E-myth and how in that book they say that there's the technical worker, the coder in the basement, the manager of the coders, and the entrepreneur that runs the company, and how everybody can be 1 or 2 of those 3 people, but you can't be the entrepreneur and the manager and the technical worker. You can be 1 or 2. And one of the biggest mistakes business owners makes is they don't hire the person they're not good at. They try to be all things, or they try to be the wrong thing. One of the 2 or both. So yeah, the advice you just gave is perfect, I think, for people starting a business, but I think it's good advice for people running a business, which leads me to my last question today, which is for those that already run a business, whether it's, a growing business or a middle market, just killing it, successful business. However, they're in a point where they're feeling stuck or plateaued. They're going through you talked about the roller coaster. They're in one of those I wouldn't even call it plateau. They're in one of those dips, they're struggling. What advice would you give them to get unstuck?
So my approach to it is understand that you're going to have those days or those time periods. Up front, understand that you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. So when you have your ups, take those profits and save, so that when you have the downs, you're not stressed about the financials of it, and you can take the downtime to make your product and service better because the demand is not there. And then when it goes back up, your product and service will be better and ready for the demand. But when it's up, you got to be saving your money, understanding that you're going to have a down for the demand. But when the down comes, use that time to build, like, especially if you're a small business, because if you're a small business and you're bootstrapped and you didn't get $5 million or $50 million of investment money to ride out those downs and stuff, and you don't have to worry about that, you're a small business and you've got those ups and downs, like any business. You got to save your money when you're up. And then when you're down, you have that to last through it. But then you can be building all that time that you're down, like if you were a store owner, clean your store up, redesign it, make it a better experience for your customers. So when the demand comes back, they come in and they look around and say, wow, this is even better than I remember, Yeah. And I want to buy some more stuff. This is the greatest, and I'm going to tell all my friends about it, because in the downtime, you were cleaning up your store and you were getting it nice and everything. Same thing with any kind of business, that would be mine.
All right. Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you. We went overtime longer than we normally do, and I appreciate all your time. You're a busy guy. We just talked about it, 50 to 60 hours a week. So, and I know, like I said, we've been talking about doing this for 3 years now. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing this. So thank you for sharing your story.
My pleasure. And thank you for providing the platform and for taking the time as well. I know you've got a family as well, and it sounds like you're busy just like I am. So no, I appreciate the opportunity, and let me know how I can share what you're doing with my audience as well. I'll love
for sure. We'll talk about that sometime. But for now, I think that's our time for today. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, for listening. We're on Spotify, iTunes, we're on YouTube. Please subscribe, get these updates whenever they're released. We do these podcasts to teach people, to help them learn and to realize that, anybody, I don't want to say anybody can do this, because maybe that's a false statement, but anybody can start a business if you really want to. I think Will is, trying to share that, even if it's not in your blood to be an entrepreneur, it's possible just to get the right people around you. You can get a hold of Will on YouTube, Instagram. He's at Will Motivation on both platforms. And as I always say, there's thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to give hours a listen today. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the Elevate Your Business podcast. To complete our free business valuation quiz, to check out additional articles, webinars, videos, and other educational resources, or to set up an intro call with your host, Adam Koch, just head over to elevateandexit.com. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for financial advice. None of our shows engage in rendering legal, financial, tax, or other professional services. Always talk to a professional business transition planning consultant or certified exit planning advisor before implementing any of the ideas shared in this episode.